second start of the year and shipping to the fairgrounds. I thought he handled it well, and with good 6 weeks of preparation since then, I think we've got him in as good a position as he can be in.
Where do you see you coming in with Florida Derby winners, Wood Memorial winners, Arkansas Derby winners? And it does seem like these horses are taking, certainly you've run in those preps before, but just like sort of
I think historically those are the races that everyone's looking at, and I think part of it's recency as well. Neither one of our horses have run for 6 weeks, so they're sort of in the prep races that are the furthest away. And we looked at the possibility of running them in between. We didn't feel like another race would necessarily move them forward for this, so we're happy with the 6 weeks and the schedule they've had since then, and now it's just a matter if they're good enough.
Was that by design then, picking those spots, or do you think at that stage in their career they needed maybe a little?
Well, in Spinoff's case, we weren't sure. Once he's able to get 40 points, I felt like at the time that would comfortably get him in. It cut it pretty close this year, but once we were second in there, and had he finished third or fourth, we might have looked at running him back somewhere else. But I thought he ran well enough to set him up for this, and he had enough points that should get him in. And same thing with Cutting Humor at 50 points. We felt like we're in good shape there, and that the 6 weeks would work out.
How do we put his Sunland Derby, Cutting Humor Sunland Derby, in perspective? He came really fast, set a track record, but
Well, I don't think there's any question that the track, the surface at Sunland was very fast. But saying that, it's not very often you see a 3-year-old in March shade a mile and an eighth and he went 1:46 and 4. That's a pretty good time. I think Randy Moss told me maybe it's the fastest since Althea ran 1:46 and change in the Arkansas Derby. So you have to give him credit for that.
Todd, when you look at the overall field this year, does it seem like a year when there may be an unusual number of horses with a good shot?
Yeah, no, I was just saying, I think it's a really good field. I think maybe it's maybe not quite getting the credit it deserves because there's so many good horses. And last year there was a lot of buzz about it being one of the strongest derbies in history. And I think you could almost make an argument this field's stronger this year. We'll see how it pans out. I think generally judging the 3-year-olds before the fall of the year is probably a mistake, but right now I think it's a deep group.
You've been here with a lot of horses to the Kentucky Derby. How do these two stack up versus some of the other horses? I mean, like I said, they're lightly raced.
I think from a talent perspective, they both stack up really well. I think both horses give me the indication they'll get the distance as well. From a training perspective, we've seen them do things in the morning that are consistent with the horses that we've brought here that have done very well. So, we like them both a lot, and now we'll just see.
Corey Lannery on Cutting Humor. Just talk about that decision on.
Well, I think Corey is someone who knows Churchill very well. He's had a lot of success at Churchill, and that played a big role. We've had some success with him on a limited basis, but I think he's an intelligent rider. He knows Churchill very well, and I think that's an edge. And I think there's a couple of guys here that kind of have ridden with Calvin a lot and kind of learned how to ride Churchill, and I think Corey's one of those guys.
I was asking if looking at lead performance entered your mind at all, thinking if you do draw the rail, here's a guy that showed he can actually make it to his advantage versus a disaster.
Yeah, no, I think that's something you look at, and I think the guys that are successful here often know how to ride the rail here. From the 10 post, I doubt that he'll find himself in that position, but
he's not quite like Calvin. He's not going to take a left-hand turn at the gate, huh?
Probably not from the 10 path, 10 hole, anyways.
Do you think it's easy to underestimate a field when there's not, say, the powerhouse horse that attracts a lot of pre-derby attention?
Yeah, I think so. I do think Omaha Beach has built up a lot of momentum in his last 2 starts, and he's justifiably the morning line favorite. But there's quite a few horses that are right there as well. So I think it's a good field.